the purpose of infant approval hearings. Now, this bit's rather simple, and I imagine that you probably know this already, but understanding these core issues are going to help in your preparation. Now, there are two main purposes behind these hearings. Now, the first is mandated by the Civil Procedure Rules at 2110, and it's to ensure that the proposed settlement figure is adequate. Is the settlement enough? And that needs to be run by a judge to make sure that the settlement is fair. And this is to stop the litigation friend and the solicitors taking advantage, and insurers taking advantage of the child, making sure nothing's been missed, and generally to ensure that the interests of the child have been properly considered. It isn't something that we just see in PI. Wherever there's a settlement of any sort that involves a child, 2110 says there has to be approval. The second part, the second purpose, is to work out what is going to happen to the money, because you can't just take a child and give them the money. So to protect the child's interest and to make sure it's not misappropriated by family members, the lawyers, or the court is usually going to order that it's invested for the child's benefit. Now, in most cases, the money is deposited into a special account run by the Court Funds Office, the CFO. Now, the CFO is basically a bank run by the court system. It looks after money for children and protected parties. Now, the CFO isn't always where the money goes in these cases, but for lower value claims, it is the starting point. And what will usually happen is that the CFO will hold on to the money until the child is 18. It will gather interest in that time. And then, in theory, communication is made when the child reaches majority and the fund is paid back to the now adult claimant. That's the theory, at least. There is a third purpose, and it's one that's it's not spoken about very much, and it's to make sure that the child actually exists. I was told quite jokingly that at about 20 years ago, there were many fraudulent claims involving extra kids in vehicles. A family would have a collision with their kids in the back, and they'd say, little Jimmy was in the middle seat. But little Jimmy never existed. And the approval process really makes sure that, first of all, the child exists. And the investment process means that if there is a fraud, there's nowhere for the money to go. And so those fraudulent claimants, hit a brick wall when trying to recover. But the most important thing is that it's all about the child. It's all very bureaucratic because you have to work out where the money's going. And judges can be very trigger happy about kicking the matter off to another day. And they sometimes use it as a punishment to the claimant's representatives. And the thing to remember is if the judge's only concern is for the child, they're going to be wholly unsympathetic if you have not complied with the rules or a court order.